The gentle sound of water flowing in the pool echoed around as Ethan quietly glided across the surface. The summer afternoon seemed perfect for a moment of peace and solitude in the pool. He always preferred these moments, away from the chaos of the house and prying eyes. However, on that particular afternoon, the unexpected presence of his stepmother, Rachel, would break that tranquility. Rachel, his stepmother, appeared at the glass door leading to the backyard where the pool was, and Ethan almost didn't notice her arrival. Dressed in a daring bikini, she seemed completely at ease, her tan skin gleaming under the sun. "You're always out here when no one's around, huh?" Her voice was casual, but there was something in her tone that made Ethan swallow hard. He averted his gaze, trying to hide the discomfort growing in his chest. "I like the quiet," he replied, keeping his voice controlled but unable to hide the tension rising as she drew closer. Rachel laughed, a soft, teasing sound, her eyes fixed on him in a way that sent a shiver down his spine. She approached the edge of the pool, sitting down casually but with a deliberate elegance in every movement. "Well, sometimes company can make things more interesting," she said, a mischievous smile curling on her lips. The atmosphere was charged with electricity, and what she was about to do would leave Ethan completely shaken. Without waiting for a response, Rachel dove into the water with the grace of someone entirely in control of the situation. Ethan felt his body tense as she swam toward him, her movements slow and deliberate, as if savoring every second of the closeness. When she finally surfaced beside him, water cascading down her body's curves, Ethan tried to maintain control, but it was impossible to ignore the intensity of the moment. "You've always been so quiet, but I think you're holding a lot inside," Rachel murmured, her voice almost a whisper, her eyes locked on his with a dangerous intensity. She slid her hand suggestively along his shoulder, and Ethan felt the warmth of her touch spreading through his body, leaving him torn between guilt and a desire he was struggling not to admit. He didn't know what was coming next, but he knew that from that moment on, nothing would be the same. Rachel glided through the water, drawing even closer to Ethan. The tension between them was palpable, but unlike the lightness with which she had entered the pool, the atmosphere now buzzed with electricity. Every movement she made seemed calculated, every glance longer than necessary. "You've always been so quiet, Ethan." Rachel's voice was a whisper as she leaned against the edge of the pool, just inches from him. "But I think there's more you're keeping inside." Ethan felt trapped, as if he was about to lose control of a situation he didn't fully understand. But before he could say anything, the unexpected happened. Rachel, with a casual movement, tried to push herself up from the edge of the pool to get out, but her fingers slipped. The clumsy action caused her to lose her balance, and she fell back into the pool, right on top of Ethan. The impact was light, but enough to create an uncomfortable closeness. She landed on his chest, and their bodies touched in a way that was far too intimate to be a coincidence. Ethan froze, feeling her breathing quicken as their bodies remained pressed against each other. Rachel's gaze met his, her eyes flickering with a mix of embarrassment and something else. A hint of amusement appeared on her lips, but before she could say anything, the worst happened. Rachel's bikini, already tight and revealing, seemed to decide it didn't want to cooperate in that embarrassing moment. The top slipped slightly, exposing more than she intended. Ethan's breath caught, and he immediately looked away, feeling his heart race. "Oh my God!" Rachel exclaimed, laughing nervously as she quickly turned to adjust her bikini. "Sorry, Ethan. That wasn't on purpose." She struggled to keep her tone casual, but the situation was hard to ignore. Ethan felt his face burn, unsure how to react. He wanted to say something to ease the tension, but the words wouldn't come out. When he finally found his voice, his response was barely a whisper. "It's okay. It was just an accident, right?" Rachel laughed again, though her laughter was tinged with embarrassment. "Yeah, of course. Just an accident. I promise it won't happen again." She tossed her hair back, still trying to appear nonchalant. "Well, sometimes accidents happen, especially when you least expect it." Rachel tried to break the ice, but the smile she gave him held something more. A subtle, almost imperceptible air of teasing that Ethan wasn't sure if he was imagining or if it was real. The tension between them was undeniable. Still stunned by the turn of events, Ethan struggled to regain control of his thoughts. But what he didn't expect was for Rachel to lean in closer, her lips just inches from his ear, and whisper something that left him completely shaken. If you're enjoying this story and want to know what Rachel whispered to Ethan, stay until the end of this video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our content. Rachel leaned in even closer, her warm, soft words slipping directly into Ethan's ear, sending a shiver down his spine. I have an idea that could make this afternoon a lot more interesting. The suggestion in her tone was clear, but what really disarmed him was the way she bit her lip right after, waiting for his reaction. Ethan opened his mouth to respond, but their closeness, the warm water surrounding them, made it hard to think clearly. Rachel, we shouldn't. He tried to resist, but the smile on her face showed she knew exactly the effect she was having. Shouldn't what, Ethan? She asked, her voice low and challenging. Should we just be friends? Or are you going to keep pretending you don't feel this desire between us? Rachel moved even closer, her lips almost touching his, their breaths intertwined. Ethan was trapped between reason and desire, his eyes locked on Rachel's, who now stared at him with a mix of defiance and seduction. He couldn't resist any longer. With a sudden move, he pulled her closer, their lips finally meeting in a kiss that started soft but quickly became something much more intense. The taste of the salty water and the heat of their bodies mixed together, creating an explosion of sensations neither of them could control. Rachel wrapped her arms around Ethan's neck, deepening the kiss. The feel of her hands against his skin, their bodies so close, made him feel lost in a wave of desire he couldn't stop. Every second, the tension between them grew, and the air around them felt heavier. You have no idea how long I've waited for this, Rachel murmured, her lips still close to his as she looked at him with burning eyes. But this is just the beginning. What comes next will be even better. Ethan, speechless, felt the growing heat between them. His mind screamed that this was wrong, but his body and heart were far beyond any rational control. Suddenly, a loud sound shattered the moment. The sound of a phone ringing echoed through the house, abruptly interrupting the kiss. They both pulled away, breathless, the tension broken by reality crashing in. Rachel rolled her eyes, visibly frustrated by the interruption. Damn! It's probably my idiot husband. She smiled provocatively as she slowly climbed out of the pool. But don't worry, Ethan. This will pick up next time. She gave him one last look, full of promises, before leaving to answer the phone. Ethan stood there alone, his body still warm from the kiss, desire pulsing through his veins. And as she walked away, he knew there was no going back now. Couldn't you have come up with a better excuse? Rachel asked, her voice dripping with sarcasm but a smile on her face. Ethan laughed, leaning against the hood of her car. It was the only thing I could think of at the moment. I need help with a car problem, sounded convincing enough. They were in a secluded parking lot, far from prying eyes, where they had come up with an excuse to see each other again. The afternoon was calm, and the sun shone brightly, warming the air around them. The car problem was, in reality, a flimsy excuse that both accepted without question. Rachel slowly approached, this time not hiding the intensity she felt for him. You know I've been thinking about you all week, don't you? Ethan watched her as she gazed at him, her eyes locked on his with a mix of desire and urgency. I've been thinking about you too, more than I should have, he admitted without hesitation. She smiled, but it was a sad smile. This is getting dangerous, not just for us, but for everyone around us. They knew the consequences, but still, they were drawn to each other, like two magnets impossible to pull apart. Each clandestine meeting only fueled the growing desire between them. With every touch, the guilt intensified, but the urge to be together always seemed stronger. I know, Ethan finally said, looking at her seriously. But can you stop? Because I don't know if I can anymore. Rachel stepped forward, closing the small distance between them. I don't know if I want to stop, Ethan. I think we're too far in now. I'm falling in love with you, she said quietly, as if confessing it made everything more real. And I don't know what to do with that. Ethan felt a knot form in his throat. He was also caught in this web of confusing and contradictory emotions. But at the same time, the guilt ate at him. The image of Rachel's husband, the possible consequences, all of it hung over them like a constant shadow. Weeks passed, and each meeting between the two was more intense, more charged with emotions and dilemmas. They knew they were playing with time and the people they loved, but the feeling between them was overwhelming and insatiable. "Do you think we'll ever be able to stop?" Rachel asked, looking at Ethan with eyes full of uncertainty. "I don't know," he answered honestly. "But what do you want, Rachel? What are we going to do?" The doubt hung in the air. The future was uncertain, and reality was starting to hit them harder. They were torn between desire and consequences. The choices they would make from that point on would shape their lives forever. And now? Will Rachel and Ethan be able to handle the feelings growing between them? Will they face the consequences or continue hiding in the shadows, satisfying their desires? What would you do in this situation? Leave your thoughts and predictions about the future of this forbidden couple in the comments below.